Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome to the show, Corrina Mabey.
Hello.
How's everything?
It's going okay. It's been a good week so far. Yeah.
Better than the last week?
Day in my life. I mean, yeah, last week was pretty rough. We had a lot of shit happen last week, and then I thought this week was gonna be good, and it started off on a rough note. But I'm back and better than ever now.
That's good.
Yeah, you know, shit's going down.
So this week we're entering the wasteland as we review Prime Video's TV adaptation of the video game series Fallout. Now, for those that are unaware, Fallout is a post-apocalyptic drama series based on the role-playing video game by Bethesda Game Studios. The series is set in a future post-apocalyptic Los Angeles and depicts the aftermath of the Great War of 2077, which was an apocalyptic nuclear exchange in an alternative history of Earth where the advances in nuclear technology after World War II led to the emergence of a retrofuture society and a subsequent resource war for energy. In order to survive the fallout from the nuclear warfare, many citizens chose to live in underground bunkers to protect themselves from radiation, mutants, and bandits. But now, some 219 years later, in 2296, a young woman named Lucy leaves behind her home in Vault 33 in search of her father in the dangerous, unforgiving wasteland, which is very confronting for her. Along the way, she meets the Brotherhood of Steel, a ghoul bounty hunter, each with their own mysterious pasts and agendas to settle. So first and foremost, history with Fallout. Do you have any?
I know it's a game. I actually have it sitting on my shelf and I've never fucking touched it. Because
Which one do you have?
4, it looks like. Yeah, Fallout 4 is right over there on my shelf, along with, all the other shit that I haven't fucking touched in a really long time.
The one that
because most of my shit's all digital.
the one that saw sales in Europe jump 7,000% last week, thanks to the show.
Oh, for realsies. Oh, yeah. So I know I knew it was a console game. However, I did not know it was a mobile game until I was talking to one of my coworkers. She was like, "I play that all the time. I'm playing it right now." And I go, "No, it's on the PlayStation." And she was like, "No, it's on your mobile phone too." And I go, "I think it's a different Fallout, but okay, cool."
Yeah, Fallout Shelter is the mobile game, and it's basically like you are basically the head of one of the vaults, and you got to like keep your citizens alive, and it's a management sim basically.
Yeah, that's what she was explaining to me. So I was like, "Oh, okay." And then other than that, I just knew that there was a little thumbs up guy that's super popular with shit, and a Nuka-Cola thing. And that's all I knew about Fallout. Was very minimal things about it.
See, this is another one of those ones where I feel like I know a lot about it, but I've never actually sat down and played the game. So it's kind of like
because so many people talk about it, I think.
Yeah, kind of like me in The Omen, where I knew everything, but I hadn't actually physically watched it or played it, so it was a bit strange in that sense.
We're not going to talk about you and your lack of shit, but it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, other than that, I didn't know anything else about it. That was literally the only thing I knew about it.
Yeah, so like as of this morning, there was an article came out saying that so Fallout 4 last week was the highest selling game in Europe, above Helldivers, EA Sports FC 24. So it had jumped 7,000%. So basically it was probably selling.
Want to play it.
Like Fallout 4 came out Oh, 10 years
Ages
ago?
ago, I'm guessing. I don't know. When I got my PS4, everybody kind of gave me their PS4 games because they all upgraded to the PS5. And they all got digital PS5s, so they had no reason to have discs anymore. And so I have a disc PS4, obviously, and I have a ton of games over there just sitting and waiting to be touched. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Fallout
um,
4
I
released
kind
in
of want to play it though.
2015.
Oh, it was a hot minute ago, almost 10 years ago then.
So yeah, I imagine it was selling very, very few copies. And then when the show dropped, everyone's like, I really want to play Fallout again, which is what happened to me. I was like, I should play this game. It's a shame they don't have a Fallout 5 ready to go.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's maybe in the works. I mean, who knows how?
Or at least like a remaster or a remake of 4. Like surely
Maybe?
they
I
would
don't
have
know.
you would have thought Microsoft would be like, let's get that ready to go, spool that up. That's cash in the
Yeah.
bank.
Yeah, I'll probably end up like going to it eventually because I have like a list of games that I've been meaning to play, but my daughter was in charge of my PlayStation for the past like ever since she discovered Genshin Impact, and so I did not have access to my PlayStation until like I was ready to go to bed, and I was like, I'm fucking tired, and also like Diablo kind of consumed my life for a while because I love Diablo. Um, but now that I have my PlayStation back, I feel like I should probably attempt to at least start Fallout and see how that goes.
I guess the one benefit of them, like with the older games just being compatible with the newer systems, they're just making free money at this point by selling the old game. Like they didn't have to
100%.
invest
100%.
anything in it. It was already done. All they had to do was like pay for the server hosting costs to have the game available. And
Yeah.
now people are just giving them his money. I think
Yeah, because I feel like that happened to me with The Witcher. When The Witcher series came out on Netflix, I had never played The Witcher. I had never read the books or anything like that. And then I was like, "Ooh, I want to play the game." Um, and so yeah, like I started playing the game, and I was like, "Oh, this is really fun." Now I understand certain things in the show. So I feel like if I do start playing Fallout, I will probably understand some of the backstory of these characters a little bit better, maybe. We'll see.
okay, they're not making a lot of money off Fallout 4.
Oh, okay. Well, Bethesda has other games out there on their market that probably do better than Fallout. So,
Yeah, because it's currently it is included with PlayStation Plus Extra. So if you
okay.
have that, you just get Fallout 4. If you don't have PlayStation Plus Extra, it's currently offer ends on the 25th of the 4th. The price is currently $6.23 Australian. It's 75% off.
Yeah. So it's even cheaper USD.
Six
Yeah, it's
dollars,
one of
like
those
that's
games
very
that like
tempting
you
to just like it's a cup of
buy
coffee. I
it for
can buy
shits
a
and
whole game.
giggles. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people do that with I've done that with a lot of games where I'm just like, I really want to play that, but I'm not paying that much money for it because if I don't like it, like I don't want to fucking drop that much money on it. Yeah,
So then,
good times.
in terms of the show, um, before we dive into it deeply, what did you think of it? We got to watch, well, everyone. I was shocked that first and foremost, they just dropped the whole lot at once. That's very
Yes.
un-Amazon.
That was my first shock because when like the Lord of the Rings series came out, one episode a week. The whatever it is, the time
Invincible, The
Wheel of Time show.
Boys, Wheel of Time.
Yeah, Wheel of Time was one episode. Yeah, everything's been one episode a week. Same thing when HBO releases a show, it's always like one a week. So the fact that they gave you all 8 episodes and they gave it to you 2 days earlier than when it was supposed to come out was even more bonkers.
Yeah, it was very surprising. Like when we were initially planning this out, I was thinking, oh yeah, we can drop it a week or two after the show drops because then people will have a chance to really dig into it a
Yeah.
bit. But when it got closer, I was like, oh wait, they're dropping the whole lot at once. That seems weird. That obviously made me a little bit hesitant about the show too. I was like, oh, they don't maybe they're not confident that it would sustain people for 8 weeks. I don't think
Yeah,
I didn't don't think that was a concern. I think they could have easily done this week by week, and they would have got 2 months worth of Prime subscriptions at least.
absolutely.
'Cause
Absolutely.
I was very impressed with this show overall.
For a game adaptation show, it's one of the best. One of the last shows I watched that was a game adaptation, besides The Witcher, because that's in a realm all of its own, was there was a Resident Evil series that came out. It was a live action Resident Evil series on Netflix. I had so high hopes for that show. I was like gun ho, like this is gonna be the best show ever, especially with like the lead guy. I was like, this is gonna be great. It was fucking trash,
Mhm.
um, like absolutely atrocious, and I was so mad. So I was hesitant about this, but Prime hasn't really let me down with a lot of their series. They've done pretty decent. Um, so yeah, I was impressed with it. I mean, if anyone else was going to do it, it would have been probably HBO because look what they did with Last of Us. So
Yeah, I think that this is being getting a lot of comparisons to The Last of Us, and I think they're both phenomenal adaptations, but I think each in their own different way. Um, the Last of Us is very faithful, very like just kind of retreading what we already knew. Like that game was already so cinematic. All they had to do was just convert that and make it live action TV
yeah,
series.
they had a
This
great footprint.
this one I think is perhaps a little bit more impressive in that this is an original story. It's not ripped from any of the games, but it references a lot of the games.
Hmm.
And because of that, they had to be much more creative with this and sort of, yeah, just had a lot more work to do. They couldn't just be like, okay, cool, we've basically got a season worth of TV as a script, which The Last of Us basically had. Yes, they expanded on a couple
Yeah,
of things, but they kind of had the skeleton. This one, they're like, okay, we have the lore and the world. What are we going to
yeah.
do inside that?
Yeah, they had to make something that actually flowed really well too, because if they had gone into, all these different like side quests essentially, on this show, which tends to happen sometimes, whether it be a movie adaptation or any, because that happens a lot with game movie adaptations specifically. Um, that like I feel like it would have just been absolutely atrocious if they had decided to dive deep into like this person and that person and that person, like right off the bat. I feel like this worked really well with the way that they introduced characters, but didn't leave you totally in the dark about them.
Yep.
Like they didn't last too long on one particular person.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, I'll tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Perio Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUSWRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
They do make a funny little jibe at the whole uh, perils of open world games where you kind of just get sidetracked with the
Hmm.
reference to the golden rule of the wasteland being that thou shalt get sidetracked by pointless bullshit.
Yeah,
I was like, that is so me
it's
every time I
great.
play an open world game. It's like, oh yeah, I've just spent the last 6 hours doing side quests that did essentially nothing.
Yeah, I love open world games. I 100% love them. My love for open world games was Final Fantasy 12, and I spent hours upon hours just roaming and roaming trying to find random fucking monsters to kill. And I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, I'm not going to do anything. My characters are maxed out. What the fuck is this going to do for me? But I was like, oh, maybe I could get that special armor. So,
Mhm.
like, that's all you do. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that like they did jab at that because it's so true.
I did that in Skyrim. I spent way too much time just, like, getting the black armor for no reason.
Like this has a 2% drop rate. Let's spend 5 hours trying to get it.
Yep. Red Dead Redemption 2. Um, already a long ass game, and then I think I spent hours and hours just, like, hunting a bear and hunting moose. I'm like, "What am I doing?"
Why am I doing
Um,
this? Just a waste
Far Cry
time.
is also really bad, where I spend, like, hours just, like, "You gotta hunt down these animals to get their rat bones, so then I can make a better pouch so I can carry 2 more grenades."
Yeah, like gotta get this extra too. Like
So,
it's ridiculous the kind of like effort that we go through to get like these like random ridiculous items, but it's I think it's that's what makes such a like that's how you know it's a good game because it's reeled you in to do absolutely ridiculous bullshit that you would normally just be like, why would you do that?
yeah. That's why with a lot of, like, open world games now, I'm just like, "Golden path it. Just hit the main story points unless I get stuck, and then I'll go and do something else."
Yeah, or just like finish the game and then go back and do it unless there's of course games out there that don't let you do that.
Yeah, I think
Like you've already
Horizon, I did that. I basically golden pathed it, got as far as I could. Had to do a couple of side missions just so it unlocked another main mission type thing, but
yeah.
golden pathed it, and then at the end, it puts you back in the open world, and you can just go back and clean up all of the side quests to get the platinum trophy.
Yep.
So with the show, the main characters being Lucy McLean, played by Ella Purnell as the Vault Dweller, Aaron Moten as Maximus. He's a squire in the Brotherhood of Steel who slowly becomes a knight, kinda, not really.
Yeah, he's strange. He's an interesting character.
And then probably the most recognizable name in the series, Walton Goggins as the ghoul / Cooper Howard, who we learn is a once famous Hollywood actor turned Vault-Tec ambassador turned mutant ghoul after the bombs fell, and then he becomes a gunslinging bounty hunter in the wasteland.
He's dope as hell. Do you remember my one comment I made to you when I started watching this show? I'm like messaged you immediately about it. So I was annoyed with the character name because her name's Lucy McLean. And I was like, I messaged you immediately and I was like, really? They couldn't have been any more original because that is the name of John McClane's daughter in Die Hard. And I just got so I was like, really? Come on now. But I don't think it was done intentionally. It was just one of those aha moments for me.
Yeah, I assume that's just like a funny like inside joke. It's probably like one of their favorite movies or something, the creators of the series.
Yeah. Ghoul Guy is hilarious, like awesome. Like I like him. And also kudos to the like CG team and everything like that cuz his face looked pretty flawless through like this whole show.
Well, a lot of that is makeup and prosthetics.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well then now that explains it. That explains so much.
He apparently had to sit in the makeup chair for like 4 hours before every day.
Oh, yeah, it was fucking amazing. Like, I think there was 1 or 2 scenes where I was just like, that looks a little off, but it was probably in like action sequences for the most part or something. But yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest CGI like jump out moment, I was like, oh, that doesn't look good, is later in the series when we go into Vault 1, I think it is, with all of the mutants, or Vault
And there were like
4.
the ear on the forehead, like
Yeah.
the 3 eyeballs.
The one that really jumped out at me was the Cyclops, the overseer of that vault. I was like, that doesn't look good. Everything else looks great.
No,
That
it
one,
was
I was like, oh.
horrible. Yeah, it could have been done a lot better, but yeah, it was very strange. Like the character was strange and it worked because of the fact that he was supposed to be like a messed up kind of like experiment. But yeah, it was not that well done.
But then like I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I can't imagine that would be an easy like CGI job because your eyes are constantly moving. It's not like, oh, you've got the flats of your skin and your forehead. Like every time they're working on him, like his eyes are constantly moving. So it's like every single frame you have to make slight adjustments. I was like, yeah, I imagine that would have been very tough to do.
Yeah.
Unless they just like blindfolded him and then you can't see. So that makes it impossible as well.
Yep, 100%. It was a very strange character. A lot of those characters, though, were just. I liked how, just jumping ahead, I liked how that they were looking around that vault and then slowly came to realize, like, something's off about everybody in there.
Well, that's the kind of the whole series too, where right from the get go, then the raiders make their way into Vault 33. You're watching it and you're like, there's something off. And then when Lucy finally goes out of the vault, you're like, there's still something off. The
Yeah.
series does a great job of like telling you the story, but still hiding some things. And you're the whole time you're like, I need to get the next, follow the breadcrumb to get more of the story.
Which is essentially what you do in the game. Like you get little pieces here and there, and it just all collects at the end. So it's a very fun way of doing it.
And it does a great job of like finishing every episode on sort of a cliffhanger or I need to watch the next one, which is why, again, why I think they could have done the week to week. Let people have those weekly conversations and like ponder what's going on and like we saw with The Last of Us, it stayed in the conversation for the entire week and was like, oh, cool, the new episode's up.
Yeah.
This one, I'm still seeing a lot of people talk about it, but I feel like it's going to suddenly nosedive once everyone hits that 8th episode, once everyone's finished.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with that.
Like I thought it was so good for me and so compelling for me. I watched it in 3 days. 8 episodes.
Yeah, I would have done that, but I had life happened. But I watched it gradually, and then I was telling people at work about it, who hadn't watched it, like after it came out. I was just like, no, it's pretty good. Like you can get through like a couple episodes and not even realize that you're getting through a couple episodes, because that's what happened to me. I was on my lunch break and I was like, oh, I've watched a whole episode, but I want to watch more. And I was like, I gotta work, so I can't, but I really want to. So I was like, when can I squeeze in like an extra 10 minutes here? So yeah, it's a really fun show. And then people who have played it, I think I've seen like a lot of positive response to it from people who have played the game. So I think that's a good sign as well.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like it does a good job of giving you those Easter eggs and references that make it grounded in the reality. It's not like, oh, they've just ripped all of the cool parts out of it and then done their own thing, like the Halo series, where it's basically like,
which I have never watched because you told me it was bad.
They're like, oh, here's Master Chief, and then everything else is just like total bullshit, and you're like, what the fuck is this? This one, it's like, yeah, this makes sense. And they've said that this is canon to the game series now as well, so everything that happened in this happened concurrently or after the games, I think, timeline-wise.
Nice.
And spoiler for the very end as well, which we'll save for later in the episode, but some cool stuff potentially in the future.
I like it.
One of my other notes is the title treatment of every episode. Did you notice that it's different every single time?
Yes. Yes.
I
Is
thought that
there
was a
like
cool
a reasoning
touch.
behind that, or is that just because? Yeah, no, it's really fun. I also I love the soundtrack of this show, like the soundtracks in general, that the music that they discovered or played, because I didn't know when this whole thing was supposed to take place, but the fact that like everything is very like 1940s and 50s like music that plays in this show throughout is just awesome to me. I love it because it's just it's so pure. It's like in a time of when things were pure, and I feel like that goes and coincides with the whole Vault concept of everybody that's in there is supposed to be like pristine, carrying on the tradition of human life. So I love that.
Yeah, it's that cool like retrofuture thing where because the bombs dropped in the 50s, everyone's still kind of stuck in that time period. There hasn't been like that expansion into modern music. So it has a lot of like Buddy Holly and music from the 50s and 60s and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a really fun like little touch to it. And like I said, I didn't know that when it was supposed to take place originally. So I love that they were able to just kind of maintain that throughout, and they didn't try to push anything like, oh yeah, all futuristic stuff now. And once you leave the vault, everything is like progressed significantly. You know what I mean?
Yep. But yeah, with the title treatments, so it changes up every episode, which is obviously expensive. Like they could have cut some of their budget by just having the same thing, but what they've done is every title treatment, the fallout like dissolves in a different way, reflecting something that happens in the episode. So like the first one, it
Oh, okay.
gets like vaporized by like the bomb, and then another one it gets
That
shot,
makes sense.
another one burns and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's cool.
I kind of want to go back and rewatch the opening sequences now for that, because that's kind of cool. That's really fun.
We also get a bit of origin story for the Vault-Tec thumbs up logo as well, with how that came to be, and I thought that was a very cool thing where Cooper Howard basically just on a whim was like, hey, what if I do this in a promo photo? And that ends up
And they were like,
becoming
yeah,
the iconic Fallout Boy, Vault Boy,
Fallout Boy.
not Fallout Boy, very different, Vault Boy logo.
Yeah, it's great. I also the amount of cringy conversations that happen throughout this series was hilarious to me. And at some points I was like, did they really just put that in here? What the
Particularly
hell?
after the wedding.
Yeah, and I think it's because they have that whole mindset of their whole point is to find a mate, procreate, make the next generation. So Lucy's like whole goal is to find like her perfect match of like X amount. And I'm just like, yep, okay, that's going to be a straightforward conversation right there.
Yeah, it's not romantic, it's mechanical. It's like,
Yes,
how do we make this happen?
Yeah,
And we even
all about data and numbers.
we see that throughout the series too. Like in that first episode, she's gets married off to this random guy that she's never met before. Immediately
Yep.
asks, "What's your sperm count?" at the wedding dinner. It's like, okay, well, geez, very full on.
Yeah, they're
very
eating
quick.
dinner and they're just like, so what's your sperm count?
And then
Like, I know your doctor checked you out.
and then later when her and Maximus get trapped in that new vault when they're in their quarantine waiting, and she's just like, "Want to have sex?"
Yeah, and he's just like, yeah, like, wait, I heard that it can explode. She was like, it's normal.
It's gonna
Like,
swell up and explode like a pimple. It's like, oh.
yeah, and
Oh.
I'm just like, this is a conversation, all right.
And that's where the show also excels too. Like you get this serious drama, sort of horror aspect at times as well, where it's like, oh, we're out in this wasteland, everything's trying to kill us. But then you
And
get
everything is crazy.
like crazy, silly, funny comedy lines like that, and then you juxtapose that with incredible gory violence. Like we see people's heads get blown off, legs get blown off. Maximus, when he's in his Brotherhood of Steel suit and he's like fighting off these guys that are trying to steal the suit from him, just grabs a dude's head and just pops it like it's a watermelon. Like, oh my goodness.
It's nuts. The amount of like blood that came into this and splatter effect was absolutely crazy. I wasn't really expecting that, but I'm not mad about it. It was really fun.
And even later too, when we finally get like a moment that builds up for a long time, sort of the romantic aspect between Lucy and Maximus, they have to inject some comedy in there as well. Like those two finally kiss, but they both have like severed heads hanging off their waist belt.
Yeah.
And as the two alive characters kiss, the two dead heads kiss as well. And I was like, okay, cool. They just have to always have that comedy, jokey aspect to it as well, which is cool. Like it has that interesting dynamic, which is apparently very reflective of the games and sets this apart from every other, like, apart from the Twisted Metal show, like every other video game adaptation has been like quite serious.
Yeah.
What else we got? The show very quickly throws you into the action as well. That doesn't, episode 1 doesn't like linger. We sort of see Cooper Howard at this kid's birthday party. in the background, you hear like the TV and radio sort of talking about, oh, this impending like nuclear war. Everyone's kind of concerned about this war. The party guests are even talking about like, what's going to happen when they drop the bombs? Like, what are we going to do? And then we see the weatherman freaking out, basically giving his final ever sign off. Then the bombs drop, and it instantly becomes every man for himself. Two of the party guests who
People
were
go
just
crazy.
like 5 seconds ago best mates are fighting over access to this bomb shelter. I'm like, that's a bit shit.
Yeah, it's nuts. The people just you can really see the cruelty in people, I guess, and in humankind, where like nobody is nice at the end of the day when push comes to shove. Like it's every man for himself kind of moment. So yeah, that was an interesting start to the show. It was very kind of unexpected, I guess, for me to see that.
And that dichotomy then also like carries over into the world 200 years later, where the people up on the surface dwellers, they're very much savage, brutal, just do what you have to survive. And then you get the dichotomy of the people in the vaults who are like this weird like democratic utopia society, everyone's best friends. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
Kindness is the best key. Like, oh, don't worry, it's okay that you punched me, I forgive you, let's go and grab coffee kind of moment, you know.
Let's have some what was it, cousin interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So crazy to me. Also, like the random like lady whose husband died, and then she just decided that she was going to make this next person her dead husband, like dress him up like her dead husband.
Yeah, that was
like,
that was creepy.
And he went along with it. He went along with it. That was the really crazy part.
Yep. And I love the fact that the people in the vaults, they believe that the surface is totally wiped clean. There's nobody living above on the surface.
You can't survive.
They believe they're one generation away from being able to finally exit the vaults and recolonize the world. Little do they know there's already people up there, which is very interesting. And I love some of the like very early on, it drops some of these like little teasers and breadcrumbs of like Lucy talks about like remembering feeling the warmth of the sun, but then like they show the like field that they have in the vault, and they're like, oh, it's just a projection of the sun. And then again at the end, all of these threads come together, and you're like, oh my god, everything that was mentioned actually pays off. There's nothing in here that I can remember where it ended and I was like, but wait, we didn't answer that question.
Yeah. It was this show, I think I told you that like when I was like probably 2 episodes in or 3 episodes in, I told you it reminded me a little bit of Silo on Apple, because they had that same kind of like, oh, the outside world is like non-livable, you can't survive, nothing's up there. And then it was essentially like all a lie and just fake productions. So it definitely gave me like that kind of vibe, because I loved that show. That was a fantastic show for me. So I was really excited when, things started to, get put together, and Lucy started to piece things together from her past, like started to question if it was actually real or fake at one point and stuff like that.
Yeah, that made me just remember. So I wanted to look. So Fallout 1, the first Fallout game, came out in 97.
Oh, wow.
And the first of the Fallout, the Silo books, which was titled Wool, came out in July 2011. So I would imagine
Interesting.
The book was potentially inspired by the game. Which is,
I mean, there's similarities to it.
Way.
Yeah. There was just so many similarities like to the Vault living and lifestyle in comparison to the Silo lifestyle that they were living. Especially with their, if you haven't seen Silo, I don't know where the fuck you've been, but especially with like them concluding that there were multiple silos. And then obviously you find out in Fallout, there were multiple vaults too. So it's just, there were so many little like similarities. It was really fun.
Yep. And this, when Lucy does eventually leave her first vault, I thought they captured the iconic Bethesda step out moment when, like, you have that. Here's like the intro. Here's how to learn how to control your character thing, and then you get that moment where you step out into the wider open world. I thought they did a great job of capturing that feeling, and then she's quickly confronted by death and destruction with like skulls and skeletons laying on the ground. You're like, oh, okay, this world is
Yeah.
going to be pretty dangerous out here.
Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is that Lucy maintains her innocence so much throughout the majority of the show. Like, you don't really see her get tainted by the outside world all that much until she gets put into situations where it's like a life or death situation, kind of.
Yeah, she's very naive, very like trusting, which is her
Mm-hmm.
downfall at times. But I also realized that her story basically echoes that of the ghoul,
Mm-hmm.
where they were good people who were essentially forced to do horrible things in order to survive,
Right.
which I think is like, we see them like, he's kind of torturing her at points. He's not letting her drink. Eventually, she has to drink the irradiated water.
Radioactive. Yeah.
And, I think they do start to bond a little bit, and at the end, they finally like, okay, we're just going to work together now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And on the Brotherhood of Steel, I thought that was a cool storyline as well. The razor blades in the boots was pretty full on.
Oh God. I was like, oh, they're not going to show. Oh, nope, they showed it.
Yeah, so that
And
was
then
nice.
also the other cringe part was when the kid's foot gets stomped on, and then like he eventually takes his boot off. That was a CGI moment that looked a little funky because his foot was like so like liquidy looking.
It's so mangled.
It was grody. But yeah, it was just like, oh.
Yeah. But the squires in the Brotherhood of Steel, I thought they also did a great job of tying back into sort of the game mechanics as well, where you see them carrying these comically large bags of equipment, which just like,
Yeah.
surely you just get the knight to carry that because that is bigger than the actual guy trying to carry the bag. But I thought
Yeah,
that was
don't give it to the guy in the suit.
I thought that was a funny reference to like infantry management and the encumbrance that you tend to have in these sort of Bethesda games where you can only carry so many things and then all of a sudden you just can't move.
Yeah. Just wait. You're too heavy.
So I thought that was very cool.
Yeah. Super fun.
We mentioned some of the moments that were difficult to watch with the violence. Episode 2 opens with probably one of the hardest scenes to watch as well, with the puppies. So yeah, if
You
that's
didn't warn me about that.
if
I
animal cruelty is an issue, episode 2 is going to be a tough slog for the first 30 minutes.
PETA won't like this show.
Yeah,
I didn't like this episode. I wish I could have fast forwarded through the beginning of this episode because it was a really hard watch.
Yeah, we see puppies getting murdered. Later in the episode, we see giant salamanders getting their whole insides pulled out through their mouth.
Ugh.
It's pretty full on.
It's gross.
But the cool thing
And
with
really
this
sad.
episode is it like this episode is the one that really sets up the sort of the real big mystery of the series. With we see the scientist implanting something into his own head.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, what the heck is that? What's on this chip that he's just shot into his own head? We also find out that he knows Lucy, like he knows her surname, he knows all about her family. Like, what? How?
Yeah.
And then ultimately he takes what I thought was very cool, the Vault-Tec Plan D, which is banana flavored cyanide pills. Like, what the hell?
Super fancy. Also, where is that guy from? Because he looked so familiar. He's been in a lot of stuff. I know I've seen him in so many things, and he always plays like a weird side, like a quirky or nerdy kind of side character.
His
You have all
name
these answers all
is
the time.
Michael Emerson. He's in Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Saw. What else has he been in? X-Files, a bunch of Batmans. But
I feel like
Lost
I
is the
need it
main
from
one
someone.
that you would know him from.
I've never watched Lost. Yeah, Revelation.
Yeah, that's where I know him from. Lost.
Oh, I think I know him from Saw, probably.
Yeah, most likely.
Probably thing.
He's in Saw 1 and Saw 2.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably where I recognize him from. I just knew he looked very familiar, like he's in those oddball things. But I think it's crazy that like he knew it had to be done and he was just totally okay with like, yes, Lucy, sever off my head and make sure that you get it to the right people. And I like the fact that they kind of like they let you know that he's important somehow, but you don't really put everything together until the end as to why his head was so fucking important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
Everybody's just like chasing this fucking head around the entire, cosmos, essentially.
yeah. And that's the cool thing. Like, this show does a great job of like introducing stuff, but not really shoving it down your throat of like, this is why this is important. You're just kind of like, okay, there's something about this that is crucial to this story, but I don't know why. So I'm just gonna have to keep an eye on it and try and solve the puzzle yourself as well, which is very cool.
Yeah, I also love the fact that he kept one of the puppies that was supposed to be rejected.
Mm-hmm. That eventually,
And
it takes a while, but we finally hear the ghoul name it dog meat. And I was like, cool. Because that was another one of those things where I was like, I know the dog in Fallout is called dog meat.
that's awesome. And I love the fact that like the ghoul was just so anti taking the dog with him. And he's like, I'm not going to take care of you. You can just follow me if you want, but I'm not going to like make sure you're following me. And it just grows on him.
Mm-hmm. On the animal front, I know there was one particular sequence in this episode. Episode 4 was probably the key one.
We don't have to talk about it.
Rad roaches. How did you feel about those?
We don't have to talk about. We don't have to talk about that. No one needed to see radioactive, ginormous, fucking Godzilla-sized cockroaches.
Yeah, but
they always did say that at the end of the world, there's only going to be two things that survive, and that's cockroaches and Twinkies. And this show has proven that one of those things has actually survived. I've yet to see a Twinkie, but I mean, it could happen.
Yep. So that was cool. I knew at some point they were going to be in this series. I just didn't know how much they would be in there. Or they might have just been like, oh, they're going to be something that we'll see once and they'll get shot. But no, they had like a whole sequence where they're attacking Maximus in his frozen suit.
Yeah, and then Lucy gives it to them and fucking destroys the nasty little fuckers. And
yeah, we get
good
the cool
for her.
Pop of them as well, which is fun. A bit more splatter.
Yeah, I could have done without that whole sequence. I didn't need those in my life. He could have been attacked by giant fucking bunny rabbits and I would have been happy. Fuck, I'll take a giant goddamn chicken.
Well, speaking of chickens, there is a cool NPC character, basically, who he pops up every now and then and gives us these little side story moments. The chicken fucker.
The what?
You know the like potions guy?
Oh yeah.
And I think it's in episode 1 or 2 when they go to Philly.
Mm-hmm.
They're after him because he was fucking some guy's chickens.
I don't think I registered that was happening. I just registered him as a scam artist, essentially.
No, because Lucy stops the other guy. Like, she comes across two people fighting and she stops the guy from killing him.
Yeah.
And he runs off and he goes, he was fucking my chickens. And then he constantly pops up with little moments of like, oh, here he is again.
Yeah, and then just is like, oh, are you hurt? I can fix that for you. I have this. I have that.
So yeah, I laughed when he kept popping up. I was like, oh, it's the chicken fucker again.
That's so interesting to me. He's like one of those random side characters that's just like, you want to buy this really exotic potion?
Mm-hmm. And in terms of buying stuff, did you see what the currency was?
No.
So on the surface, they use bottle caps as currency.
Oh yeah, because they keep saying caps. They're like, oh, I'm out of caps, and I'm just like, I don't really know what that means, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, they use the metal bottle tops off the Nuka-Colas.
Shit, I should probably start collecting my bottle caps in case the end of the world happens soon. I can be rich.
Yeah, so that was always fun. What else did I have? Oh, I had another little like note written down about Maximus. Did you sort of get the backstory of him before he joined the Brotherhood, of what he was doing before that?
He was hiding in a refrigerator trying not to get blown up.
Well, after the Indiana Jones fridge moment.
Oh no. And I like how you called it the Indiana Jones fridge moment.
He was employed at a fly farm because they use flies as they grind the flies up and turn them into like a protein.
We're good.
So he was employed at one of those as a shitter.
Oh yeah, I remember they did say that.
Yeah, his whole job was he would get fed a bunch of food and would be used to create shit for the flies so the flies could grow. And then they would harvest the flies, grind them up, and they would become a protein meal for everyone.
It's just another one of those lovely Fallout conversations that never needs to fucking happen, essentially. Like, ever.
Few more notes. I love towards the end of it when we go back and get a bit more on the ghoul's origin story. They talk about there was radicalism sweeping through Hollywood in the 40s and 50s. I thought that was like a funny maybe reference to modern day Hollywood, where it's like that PC woke culture is kind of running rampant.
Yeah.
Thought that was cool.
Yep.
And even the Cyclops Vault guy, he kind of references that as well, where he's like, I can't make any jokes anymore.
Yeah, everyone gets like offended by it and stuff like that. He's like, these people just aren't like how they used to be, which is really interesting. It's a really kind of fun concept and play on things. I hope that in the next season, because I'm presuming there's gonna be another season, we get to see more of like how the ghoul became the ghoul kind of moment, because like it leads you to believe what happened to it, but it doesn't go into full detail, so it's still kind of a mysterious thing.
Yeah,
On how
yeah, like
that
we
happened.
see Maximus's squire. He slowly becomes a ghoul at the very end as well. So it's like,
Yeah, because he was given that stupid potion from the guy who's like, oh, you can't die. I fixed everything. You can't. It's fine.
Well, he's not going to die, but he's living dead now and needs to constantly have this buffer to stop himself turning feral and wanting to eat everyone.
Yeah.
Which is another one of those things where it's kind of introduced in terms of the Cooper Howard ghoul character. We see him taking his buffer and then his meds break and he's like, the urgency on him, like to get more meds, really kicks off, and you're like, what the heck? Why is he so important?
Well, yeah, and then he passes out at one point and blacks out because he didn't get it, and it's crazy. So I'm excited to see how that story develops and them go into it a little bit more, because you do see both sides of the ghoul spectrum, where you have the functioning ones who are still slightly like human-ish, they just have other tendencies, but then you have the other ones who are completely like Walking Dead style. So
Yep. And then like the major theme for the series overall is like the whole idea of rampant capitalism. Businesses like Vault-Tec become more powerful than the government, so they basically end up ruling the world. I did like there's a bit of graffiti in one of the vaults when Lucy's brother's like investigating that says corporations make America great.
Yep.
I was like, is that a funny little Trump reference? Make America great again?
Oh, that cracked me up. Lucy's brother is awesome. I love his character. He's so inquisitive and just like he doesn't buy into the bullshit, which I fucking love. Like the fact that he was like, nah, something's off about this whole thing. I really loved that.
Especially when they try and reassign him a new job and he's like, I've done that. Didn't like it.
I've done all of this.
Didn't really do much, didn't put any effort in. What are you going to make me do?
No.
I've never tried on any of these jobs because I realize they're all pointless.
Yeah, like what's the point of me doing that if I don't want to, kind of moment. It's interesting and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, I don't know. I also liked where his character kind of led towards the end, like, um,
Yeah,
what's next for him essentially.
he feels like a side character early on, but then in sort
Hmm.
of the last 3 or 4 episodes, he becomes really crucial in bringing all of the threads together.
Yeah, like he is the key that nobody even knows about because he knows everything essentially. Like Lucy is figuring things out at the top and like on the surface, but not to an extent that he figures things out on, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
if we hadn't had his character finding the, management thing with all of the
Vault
people in, like
31.
yeah, all of the people in, like, cryostasis, I
Yeah.
feel if we didn't have that and it was just Lucy, like, getting everything at the end, it would have felt too convenient of like, "Oh, of course, she's the one that solves this grand mystery," whereas, like, he kind of
Yeah.
solves it and then Lucy learns about it through her father.
Yeah. A kid came a long way from Hannah Montana because he was in Hannah Montana.
Random that
And
you
I
know
was
that.
just like, it's a thing, but I was like, the whole time I was watching the show, I was like, I know that kid's face. I know him, but he looks somewhat the same, just a little bit more grown up. And I was like, where do I know him from? He's like the annoying kid in Hannah Montana. And now he's just like the really like intelligent kind of fucking brother that's like, I'm gonna fucking wreck this shit and blow it all up to everything. I also love the fucking walking brain or like the rolling brain that can't fucking do anything.
A Roomba
Like
brain?
literally the brains of the operation, quite literally, and it can't fucking move.
Yeah, it's on a Roomba. I was like, "That's just a brain on a vacuum."
Yeah. Stop. Halt. Don't go any further. Oh, yeah, okay.
"Okay, you're
I get
going
the
there." I
fuck.
said, "Don't." I said, "Don't do that."
Oh, he went in there. He
And, we mentioned that this version of the Fallout is set in LA. What did you think of some of the landmarks that we see throughout it? We see the Santa Monica Pier, which is very dilapidated and run down, like all of these are. The LA Observatory,
Yeah.
I thought that was a very cool thing at the end where that ends up being Moldova's base. And,
Yep.
we also see the Hollywood sign, sponsored by Nuka-Cola.
There you go. It reminded me very much so of in the Resident Evil movies when like they're in Las Vegas and like you see like the remnants of like the hotels and stuff like that and things like that. So there's just there's little like things that I've seen in other media and I'm like, oh, they did it even better in Fallout, I think. Like the details are just so much more apparent and I like it.
I think it's cool, like, it does just ground it a bit more. Like, it's obviously futuristic and out there, but it grounds it in a bit of reality because you're like, these are such visually iconic places.
Mhm.
So to see them, it's like, oh yeah, cool. So it is actually LA. It's not just, oh, we're just saying LA, but everything's been wiped out. It's just desert now. Like it's destroyed, but it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely the Santa Monica Pier. There's no questioning that.
Yeah, I like when they do that instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, it's this place," but you don't see anything that's recognizable. It's kind of harder to believe that. So yeah, I appreciate that.
So then, spoiler wise, we find out that all of the vaults, there were 100 vaults across America. They were all a series of experiments, each conducted by a different corporation as they all search for their idea of perfect humanity. 32
Yep.
and 33 were simply where Lucy lives, were simply a breeding pool for 31 to create super managers.
Yeah. I like the fact that like Cooper's wife in one of the flashbacks is like, "I'm going to make sure we get a good vault." And he's like, "What do you mean a good vault?" Like
Yeah, another
there's
one of those
bad
things where you're like,
ones?
what does that mean?
Yeah, it's just she says little things and I liked her a lot in the beginning and then I turned and like started to hate her actually. Like I absolutely could not stand her afterwards.
Oh yeah. And then the biggest like reveal that we get from the series is that Vault-Tec dropped the bombs. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't Russia like they were telling everyone it was going to be. It was Vault-Tec did it because that guaranteed that the vaults would be needed. They would also wipe the surface clean, which they failed to do, so that they could
Yep.
then create their true corporate monopoly where they built the vaults. Everyone that was running their own separate vaults was basically under their umbrella. So Vault-Tec became the global superpower.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you know, corporations nowadays are trying to do all that kind of shit. It's very interesting that a lot of movies and TV have gone this route where, like, there is one centralized kind of like corporation that wants to just like start something so they can benefit from it. So just like in the Omen, where like the church is behind the actual like Antichrist coming so that people can go back to religion. This is just like, oh yeah, we're going to ensue panic and drop bombs so we're guaranteed some fucking money. Though it's not completely an unheard of concept. Like I feel like it's possible, very possible actually, and scary enough.
Even funnier that this was produced by Amazon, who basically are doing that. Like you can get everything through Amazon these days.
Yeah.
Like in the
Yeah,
US,
it's
you can get
very rare
groceries
that I
from
go
Amazon.
anywhere. And what's better is I get like one same day shipping on some of my shit because I have a distribution center down the street. Like
Yeah, like in the
it's
US, you
nuts.
get any like retail goods you need. You can get medications,
100%.
groceries,
Yep.
and your entertainment all under the one banner. It's like, it's funny that
Yeah.
these guys are the ones making a show about this very concept.
Yeah, it's a very interesting kind of thing.
And in terms of the bad guys, it's very much that cliche of the bad guys don't actually see themselves as bad guys. They think they're doing the best thing for humanity. But Hank, like Lucy's father, very Nazi-esque at one point as well, where he's like, the only way for us to eliminate war is to eliminate the idea of nations and factions and just make the world one homogenous group. And I was like, bro, that's what the Nazis did. That's not right.
Yeah, no. I also like, oh, her father was such a POS. Like when like, you know, it was revealed that, you know, he was behind a lot of it, and, you know, he knew that yes, Lucy and her mom and her mom had taken her or whatever, and he was just like, she stopped being your mom when she took you away from the vault. Like that's such a fucked up thing to say. And I'm just like, I can't believe you. And then he's looking at her like, come on, let's go. Like, just get me out of here, please. Let's go and we'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, so very messed up. And you mentioned Las Vegas as well. So the end of the season leaves us with a big teaser for we see New Vegas, which is a reference to probably the most popular and most beloved of the Fallout games, the Fallout New Vegas spin-off game, which wasn't actually made by Bethesda Studios. It was made by someone else. I can't remember who it was.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, so there's Fallout New Vegas, which was made by Obsidian, not by Bethesda. So it was a spin-off, and then it turned out to be like one of the more popular ones. So I'm excited to see season 2, which from all intents and purposes is going to happen because California are trying to get them to move filming from New Mexico and I think New Jersey, where it was a lot of the stuff was filmed. They're trying to get them to obviously move it to California. They've already given them a $25 million tax credit so that, hey, if you come and film here, you get to immediately write off $25 million worth of tax.
God damn.
Very likely that we will get a season 2, and it's rumored to begin filming in September. So it sounds like they want to get moving on it quite quickly.
Yeah, that's a positive because it was a really good show. And like I said, it's another one of those ones where you don't have to have played the game to appreciate the show. There are so many times where you'll put on a game adaptation or even a book adaptation, and people will be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I can't understand it. I don't understand anything. Whereas I know for a fact my mom could go in there and watch this shit right now and she'd be like, oh, this is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Just like she did that with Last of Us. She's like, I've never played the games. And I go, it's fine. You don't need to play the games.
Yep. And yeah, I think Vegas will be a very cool setting because it's another one of those ones where you can destroy Vegas, but still have it be iconically Vegas.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And yeah, like I said, trivia-wise, the show is officially canon. It's set. It's the furthest in the future that the Fallout franchise has occurred. So this is all basically sequels to the games we've had previously. very cool. I'm excited to see where they go with season 2. And
Yeah.
I may spend that $6 and go back and play Fallout 4.
Do it. If you start playing Fallout 4, I'll start playing Fallout 4.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
So in terms of a rating for the Fallout TV series season 1, what would you give this one?
This is probably gonna get like a solid like 4, maybe close to a 5 for me. It's really hard to get a whole 5 from me on a series, just because there are so many different factors to put in there. But definitely a 4. It's definitely worth a watch. I'll probably rewatch it, honestly, just because it was that good.
Yep. Yeah, I gave this a 5. I thought this was easily up there with The Last of Us in terms of high quality but creative video game adaptations. So I think of the recent ones, I would have to say, for me, I still love The Last of Us. It's such a special game to me. So The Last of Us would be top. Fallout very closely behind. Twisted Metal probably right behind that. That was actually really fun and entertaining.
I never watched Twisted Metal.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out.
It's on the list.
And
There's a lot of
then
things on my list.
Uncharted and Gran Turismo are probably equal behind that. And then, yeah, let's just skip Halo. We've got Sonic coming out soon. That could be cool.
Yes, I'm okay with that. I saw that Keanu Reeves is officially going to be Shadow Sonic. And then my kid happily informed me that Knuckles is getting his own show or something like that.
Oh, yeah, the Knuckles TV series. That's the one I'm thinking of. That looks cool.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Very interesting.
So yeah, that's a long but meaty episode of Fallout. Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jamie Apps Media and at Pario Magazine. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.